Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today that you're watching this video is Saturday, November 1st, and we are finishing up our final 6 drawings for Inktober 2025. I want to do a little kind of different format for this video. I'm going to do a sketchbook tour where I go through all of my other ink drawings for the week or the month, and then when we get to the final 6, then we'll draw them in real time. So that it's one video that encaptures the whole thing. So let's try that. I'm gonna apologize ahead of time. I forgot to charge my wireless microphones. So I'm gonna just have to use the phone audio here to record this, but I don't think it's a big deal. Hopefully I can make it not sound like garbage. First of all, thank you to my wonderful fiance Hillary for loaning me this sketchbook. It was one that she had used previously, but there's literally only one page done. And this is what Hillary did on that one page. I don't remember what for or when she said she did this, but I think it's really cool actually. So I wanted to show that off before we get started. But let's flip to the front here. And we start off with the splash page, Inktober, and then I drew a little witchy cow. For those of you who don't know, maybe this is your first video of the month. If that's so, I recommend watching the rest of the videos, but obviously you don't have to. I'm going to go through it all today. You just won't see most of these being drawn, but that's fine. You're still going to see what they came to be. So if you don't know, this is Inktober, standard prompts, but I wanted to implement slightly more difficulty on myself because I enjoy pain. So I decided that I would do a cow for every prompt. And I ended up calling it Bovine Bonanza, which I actually never drew in here. So how about we do that really quickly? There we go. Inktober 2025 Bovine Bonanza. So let's get right into the first 2 days. So the first day of the challenge was mustache. And so I figured initially I had just picked a random cow. This one happened to be a Limousin, I assume. It looks like it's spelt like it's French. So I think you would pronounce that Limousin. But I figured I would give a mustache to a cow. And initially that's all I had, but I thought it was a little too simple. So what I did was I gave him some stash wax here and gave him a little hand holding it up. I was pretty happy with this, kind of simple. And because it was so simple, I made sure that I went crazy on day number 2 so that it would be, a nice spread and some variation in difficulty. And as you can see for day 2, the word was weave. And when I think weave, I think either like a seamstress or weaving a web, and I went with that. So we did a spider here, but I think Highland cattle are really cool. And so that's what I did here, a Highland cow, and they're very fuzzy. So I was like, okay, well, let's pick a fuzzy spider. And so it's kind of a tarantula Highland cow, which cracks me up every time I look at it. But I did my first little bit here of actually adding white pen as well, which you should be able to see in this section here. Typically for this event, you limit yourself to just using a black pen, but I don't want to limit my creativity in that sense. I think that's gonna make it more difficult and not more fun, as opposed to the cow stipulation that I've given myself. So let's go on to the next 2 days. Day 3 was crown. This is a Watusi, which is kind of one of those sacred cattle. And they do a lot of very ornate, headdresses and things like that. But when I saw the photo of this guy with his horns going right up in his head, I could imagine all of this fun stuff hanging and dangling down, and I think it would look like a crown, which is the theme of that day. And so I was like, oh yeah, 100%, gotta do it all day long. So this is kind of more on the subtle side. Same with day number 4, which is murky. Not much added to these cattle. This one, my water buffalo here, almost nothing. You know, it's just a water buffalo in a swamp eating some swamp grass. But I think that fits the theme of murky really well, so I didn't try to ham it up. Speaking of ham it up, the next two I did go a little crazy on. So day 5 was a bit of a challenge for me because the theme or the prompt for day 5 was deer, D-E-E-R. And I was like, well, how do I make a deer into a cow? You know, they're even-toed ungulates, but they're not the same. And I don't want to draw just a deer with cow spots or a cow with antlers. And so I took a little creative freedom here, added an E onto the end of deer, and so we can turn it into a John Deere tractor. And so we've got us a little farmer cow chewing on his piece of wheat, and he's riding a very old looking John Deere tractor. This was a lot of fun to draw. I don't draw vehicles very often, but it was a fun challenge to try to make it look like a tractor without getting too bogged down, because you know you want your focus to be the cow. Day 6 is Pierce. I think of a bow and arrow, and because I was in a silly goofy mood from doing day 5, I was like, oh, 100% I think of Cupid, and how funny would it be to have a big chunky cow with tiny little wings flying around like he's Cupid in the clouds. And so it was a given that that's what I was going to do on this day. On to 7 and 8. Day 7 was Starfish. I think this is the biggest stretch of the month so far. But when I thought of Starfish, I had kind of racked my brain for a little bit. I had initially planned, when I saw Starfish, that I wanted to do some kind of mermaid. But I was like, well, what does that mean though? But then after thinking about it, you know, cattle, especially the ones bred for dairy, they've got big old udders, right? And so those are kind of gross. What if we covered the udders up like it's Ariel with her seashells with some starfish, and we can make ourselves a little moo maid, is what I decided on calling it eventually. And so that's what I did here. Very goofy, but I thought it was very fun. And then Reckless, the first thing that came to my head when I read the prompt Reckless was some kind of, you know, punk kid. Oh, you don't understand. And they're doing stupid stuff to piss their parents off. And so I kind of went with that vibe. And I thought a Highland cow fit that really well because I could give it the scene hair where it comes and pops down in front of his head. And when I finished this one, this is probably one of my favorites of the whole month. So I was very happy with the outcome of this guy. On to 9 and 10. So day 9 was Heavy. And even though I've never played the game, when I think the word heavy, I think of the Heavy from Team Fortress 2. And so that's exactly what I did here. I just did a Minotaur version of the Heavy from TF2. Not the most creative thing in the world, but I thought it was pretty funny. And instead of bullets on his bandolier, I gave him some milk jugs. And sometimes you gotta take it a little easy on yourself so that you can save your energy for making other weird ones, right? You don't want them all to be crazy. Then it'll be too much going on. So you got to have a break every once in a while. Day number 10 was Sweep. And I had initially considered for Sweep some kind of sport. You know, when you win, say, I watch a lot of basketball. When you are in the playoffs and they go to first person to win 4 games, right? It's a 7-game series. First team to win 4 wins. So if you win immediately in 4, they call it a sweep. But I have no idea how I was going to make that into a drawing. And so I fell back on Sweep like a janitor. And upon doing research on different breeds of bovids or cows, I remembered about these muskox, which are kind of Arctic. They're further north, at least, where it gets very cold and they're very fuzzy. And I thought it would be funny if the muskox itself was using itself as a mop. So I've got the mop sitting up against him because he doesn't really need it because he's the mop. And it made me think of those little onesies. I've seen them online somewhere. I don't know if they're real. I got to assume they're not. But the little mop onesie or the sweeper onesie that you put on your baby and it crawls around and cleans the floor for you. That's kind of what I thought of when I was making this. Okay, let's get on to day 11 and 12. Day 11 was Sting. Pretty self-explanatory. Like, I started with this and I was like, okay, yeah, sure. But it wasn't enough for me. And so I added, since it's a cow, I don't think it would have venom in its stinger. I think it would have milk in its stinger. And so I decided I would make this cow bee have some milk coming out into a bowl of cereal. And this was a fun little challenge, the cereal itself. I wanted to indicate that it was like Honey Nut Cheerios without overdoing it. You know, I want the focus to be up here. And if I drew every single Cheerio in my bowl of cereal down here, I think it would be too much. And so I kind of indicated a couple of them without overdoing it. And I think it was very successful. I know it's cereal, and everybody that I've shown immediately knows that it's cereal. And so I consider that a win. Day 12 was shredded. And so two things come to my mind. Either a cow that's absolutely jacked or a cow that's a skateboarder. And I had a plan for another very buff cow coming up later. So I went with the skateboarder here. So I just found a video of a skateboarder doing a trick. I think this guy that I found the reference photo was doing a laser flip, but you can't tell what trick it is. It could be a kick flip, it could be a heel flip, you know, but the big board, I think, makes a nice big statement on the drawing. And I think this is a very successful composition. I'm very happy with this. Let's get on to day number 13 and 14. Day 13 is drink. And the kind of idea that I went with here was those ladies who go to like the Kentucky Derby or horse races or dog races in the crazy, fancy, goofy ass hats. And they sit there with their little tiny binoculars and watch the horses while their husbands bet on them. And I thought that would be a funny thing to try to translate into a cow. And so that's exactly what I did. I gave a cow a funky little derby hat and the little binoculars. And to make it drinking, I had it drinking a little martini with 2 olives, of course. Actually, gross. I hate olives and I don't like martinis. But that seemed very fitting for the aesthetic of the derby lady. Day 14 is trunk. I had initially tried to do something else here. There's a picture of a boy at like the Iowa State Fair sleeping with his cow, and I wanted to do that under a tree because I thought it would be cute. However, I couldn't get it right, and you can see there's some red lines in here from what I initially planned, because in the spirit of Inktober, I didn't plan on erasing anything. Not that I could erase color pencil very well. And so I kind of just drew over it, but I don't think that it distracts too much. And then I went with just a cow laying down on its side. I always think cows look a little funny when they're laying down on their sides. It's just not a natural position for a cow to be in, at least when we're exposed to them. You know, if you live on a farm, I'm sure there's nothing weird about a cow laying down. But think back to your experience with cows in media and books and movies and TV shows, things like that. They're not laying down on their sides like that unless they're dead. Usually they're standing up, or they're eating, or they're mooing at somebody, or, you know, it's a cartoon and they're walking on 2 legs and talking English. So I think a laying down cow is a unique image for a lot of people, and I thought it fit very well for the theme of trunk to have him laying down at the base of a tree. On to the next 2 days, I have 15 and 16. So day 15 is ragged, and I thought either I would do kind of a sketchy looking cow that was kind of beat up and dirty and nasty, or a zombie. And considering that it's October, I think zombie fit better. And so we went with a zombie cow. So I have him missing an eye. You can see his skull poking out here. He's got some big drool marks, maybe blood, maybe drool, I'm not sure. And just make him look kind of disheveled. Day 16, blunder. When I think of blunder, I think of chess. So I have 2 cows in the park playing chess. This was another pretty simple day. I was if I remember correctly, I was very busy this day. And I was not interested in making my daily submission. So I just kind of busted it out real quick. On to day 17 and 18. Day 17 is ornate. So this one I thought was really successful. I had initially planned to do like a Fabergé egg in the shape of a cow because they're very ornate. However, when I was kind of mocking it up in my head and looking for references that I could use, I wasn't very satisfied with what I was coming up with. So I went back to the drawing board and I thought about back to whatever that was, day number 3, crown, the sacred cattle. And I remember when I was doing research on them for this drawing that they all had very ornate headpieces and they're wearing fancy cloths and jewelry. And so that's what I did for this one. I found a really cool photo of a cow, very zoomed in, showing all the ornate details of its headdress. And so I thought it would be cool if we represented that in here. And so I did the best of my ability without taking forever, and I think it's very successful. Day 18, I said that the Highland cow with the tarantula body was my favorite, but this one's going to be up there too. Just the second I saw Deal on the list that first day, when I read through the whole list, this is exactly the image that I had imagined. Was a shady used car salesman smoking a cigarette or a cigar in a suit that does not fit him, trying to sell you something. And oh my gosh, I'm so happy with the way this came out. I think it's so funny and it works, and you know exactly what's going on. You see the daily prompt Deal, and there's no confusion about the subject or what's going on, and I think that makes it a very successful drawing. Let's go on to day 19 and 20. So day 19, I had Arctic. Straightforward, I just did a cow in Arctic gear, but I had initially not added my hot cocoa here, and I thought it was a little boring, and it kind of looked like it might have been raining. And so I added hot cocoa or a coffee mug steaming up here, so it really sells that it's cold. Then day 20, Rivals, was the day that I had planned for a buff cow. I told you back on Shredded, which is back here somewhere, that this was either going to be buff or a skateboarder. Well, this was the day that I had planned for buff. So Rivals, I'm not a college football fan, but my fiance Hillary is. She is from Iowa, and all of her family went to Iowa State. And they have a big rivalry with the college Iowa. I think it's University of Iowa, but they just call it Iowa and Iowa State. So the Hawkeyes and the Cyclones. And the last couple years, every year they do what's called the Cy-Hawk Bowl, where these two teams play against each other. And the last 2 years, at least, that's how long I've been paying attention. But the last 2 years, Iowa State has beaten Iowa, which typically is not the case. Iowa is the bigger school, usually has the better students or the better sports teams. And so Iowa State having won the last 2 makes our family very happy. And so I wanted to represent that here. Juan or Heather or Owen, anybody in the immediate family, if you're watching this video for some reason, go Cyclones. This one's for you guys. On to the next 2 days. Day 21, Blast. I think construction, and I thought it would be fun to do a cow who is working on a jackhammer who can barely control it. I initially did not have this stick of dynamite in here, and when Hillary looked at it, she goes, "That's not very blast." And so I was like, okay, fine. I'll put some dynamite in there. So it's going to be very blasty in a minute here if this guy can't get his jackhammer under control. Day 22, another relatively simple concept, button. And so the first thing I think was the big button that launches off all the nukes and destroys the planet. And if you've looked at pictures of cows, which I assume you have if you're over the age of 5, hopefully maybe even less, you've seen a cow before, but there's a lot of very funny faces that cows make, and there's a lot of photos of those funny faces. And so I found a reference with a pretty funny face, and I thought it would be fun to make it panicking, smashing the launch the nukes and kill everybody button. But it was a little too simple initially. So I added this radar back here to kind of make it look like it's in some kind of war room. On to the next 2 days. So this is the least successful drawing of the month so far, in my opinion. So day 23 is Firefly. Now, they're not all going to be winners, unfortunately. They can't all be wonderful. And in my head, I imagined a cute little piece with a cow kind of in a field at dark, looking at some fireflies flying around. But I don't think that I captured that very well. So this is the piece that I'm most disappointed with. But I think that's good to have one that you don't really love, because that shows that, I'm not perfect. None of us are, right? They're not always going to be winners. But I made sure to finish the piece because I don't want to have a half-done drawing for this challenge. So I'd give it like maybe a 70, a C minus. Whereas, some of the other ones maybe a little better. I would say this is my least favorite of the prompts I've done so far. Day 24 was Rowdy. So I think a rodeo. I could have just drawn bull rider, but why don't I draw a bull rider? So I flipped the roles here just for the sake of making myself laugh, more or less. But I made a bull riding on a cowboy. This was actually really fun to draw. I've never drawn a human from this position, but it was a nice exercise in drawing splayed fingers from this angle. I've not really done very much. Getting a plaid pattern on his shirt was kind of fun to try to do. And it was nice that I could just draw the cowboy hat and not have to detail the head in here. But I think this is a pretty successful one as well. And next one is day 25, and we catch up to where I have been so far. Day 25 was Inferno. Day 25 is Inferno. This is another one of those ones where I knew right away what I was going to do. And we go to Taco Bell all the time and get hot sauce from Taco Bell. And every once in a while, they will throw in the fire sauce, and I don't notice, or the Diablo sauce, and I don't notice. And this is what I look like when that happens. So I figured I would put some hot sauce on this little calf's tongue and have smoke blowing out of his ears, because it made for a fun image. And once again, I got to use one of those goofy photos of a cow. So that's caught up to day 25. I've got 6 days left. And what I'm going to do now is we'll jump into a time lapse, and I will finish each of these days when they come up. And maybe I will do kind of voiceover for the final few days, and then we can wrap it up for this Inktober challenge. Thank you for watching so far. Stay tuned to see me draw the rest of these, and I will be checking out with you now. Real Time John, see you later. Hey guys, Time-Lapse John. We're going to bust through these real quickly. So here is day number 26. Puzzling was the prompt for today. And I thought it would be really cool if we did like a Sherlock Holmes type of thing. And one of the covers for a lot of the early Sherlock Holmes books was just kind of a silhouette of him with his hat and his pipe. And I figured, perfect, that'll be really easy for me. So let's just do the silhouette of a cow, and we'll give him a pipe and a hat. And you'll see me coloring this in. This is awful. There's not a big enough pen for me to color this in nicely. So this is a pain in my butt. But we got it done, and about this point I was like, I think it needs a title. So we put a title in here. We went with a Mulock Holmes after much deliberation. You can see it doesn't quite fit, so I went with a white pen and put the letters that were over the silhouette in with white. I think it turned out pretty nicely. And on to day 27, the theme is onion. If you are around my age, which is 27, then when you hear the word onion, you only think of one thing. And so we're going to start with a nice little cow here. And maybe you know where I'm going already. When I think of onions, I think of one person and one person only. That is the big green ogre himself, Shrek. So I took that picture of the Riz Shrek, where I think in the movie he's faking being stabbed by a sword, but where he's kind of looking up from being down on the ground, and I translated that to the face of a cow. It's a little stupid. I feel dumb having drawn it, but it makes me smile when I look at it, and that's all I'm caring about. Day 27, skeleton. Simple, straightforward. We're just going to do a cow skull. I couldn't decide what the hell I wanted to do with these antlers, or horns rather, but I just went with some simple horns. So the red pencil kind of sticks out, but I don't think that's the end of the world. You're going to focus on the highest contrast areas when you look at this, so you're not really going to pay attention. I say you, whoever's looking at it, isn't going to really pay attention to the light red stuff. They're going to be looking at all of the dark black areas. Pretty simple. Day 29 is lesson. And so initially I had thought maybe I wanted to do like a piano lesson or a violin lesson. And then when I was kind of coming up with the logistics of the drawing, it did not make sense to me. I could not figure out how to get a cow to be holding a violin or playing piano. So we went with a cow teacher teaching a lesson. And how do you make something look like a teacher? Well, you give it glasses. So that's what I did. I gave the cow some glasses, put a whiteboard behind it, and a marker sticking out of its mouth, like it just wrote on the whiteboard. And I figured I would make it say moo moo on the whiteboard. When I come through here with my pen, I actually use my right hand to write it down so that it looks kind of bad, like I would expect a cow's handwriting to be. I also, you can see, added a little rug and book onto the floor just to kind of fill out the whole scene. You see me with my right hand here doing a very poor job of writing in letters. It's funny how, I've been writing my entire life, and for whatever reason, my one hand just doesn't understand how to do it. Day 30 is vacant, and so I was thinking a motel. Initially, I wanted to do a motel. I was like, how do I make that a cow? Well, what's a cow motel? It's a barn. So I drew a barn first, and then I'm going to do a little motel vacancy sign. But instead of it being a motel, naturally, it's a mootel. I know, I'm terrible. But we're going to go ahead and draw this sign in and make a nice little barn. I think this is the only drawing this whole month that does not have a cow in it. And day 31, final day, is award. And so cow theme, I think of like the 4-H club where they do the show cattle and they get these blue ribbons for excellence. And so that's what I did here. I did a certificate of completion, Inktober 2025 Bovine Bonanza, and I drew a little cow in the center of the main part, and then on the other smaller little leaf or tail end, I did 31 days I wrote in, so we know that I made a drawing every day for 31 days. But yeah, that'll do it. I appreciate you guys watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. Share with your friends. I appreciate all the love I've been getting this month. If you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.